Welcome to episode 211 of Missing Pieces. This is my weekly audio journal podcast where I talk about what I'm up to and what I'm into. Recording this episode on the final day of May 31st, 2024 at 1:58 p.m. back on my regularly scheduled Friday afternoon routine. And that's even with having a very busy this morning of going out yard selling and finding a score, which I'll talk about later in this episode. But first, we have to rewind all the way back to last weekend after I recorded last week's episode 210. And that happened to be Memorial Day weekend, which we were really looking forward to for a couple reasons. One, the weather was fantastic, at least for Saturday and Sunday, and we fully took advantage of that, starting with Yemi and Pap's yard sale on Saturday. I went there last Friday as a solo thing to help them out and sell some stuff. We had a really good day that day, but I was looking forward to Saturday because that's when Mrs. Brickitect, or Cody as she's known in some circles, and Clarkman were coming along, particularly Clarkman because he had big plans to sell off some of his toys and some of his Pokemon cards and make some money. Does he need money? No. Does he want to be able to sell things and maybe replicate what his dad's doing on eBay? Maybe I've inspired him. Maybe so. And he was all excited because he had this set up. And there's a whole video about it where you can see he lined up all of his toys out there. He has Pokemon cards. And people came through and they really hooked him up. They bought a bunch of stuff. Someone even donated $2 to him. I guess he's using the money for vacation. I said, what are you going to buy? And he's like, I don't know. So I guess he's got some souvenir money, but he pretty much sold out of all of his stuff, which is great to see. And he just had so much fun. And it was really fun to see him like kind of hosting it. He started out shy, when people come up, and he didn't really say much, but then he started opening up, particularly after the one lady asked him to put together 10 cards for her grandson, and he came right around and he was picking them out and stuff, and he got really good at it. And it was a proud dad moment to see your son kind of I guess being an entrepreneur, because I have so much respect for people that do that kind of stuff, whether you own your own business or if you're self-employed, you're a reseller, whatever you are. It takes a lot of determination and discipline, and I guess just some gump. It takes something from within you to go out and do that, because to me, I think that's a little bit harder than, well, geez, sometimes working in a regular job, I feel like it's way harder. It depends on what you do, I suppose. But I have respect for people that try to sell themselves or the things that they sell. And I might be a little biased, just speaking from personal experience. But it was a good day on Saturday, and that was followed up by another good day on Sunday where we went up to camp. The only unfortunate thing about camp was that Kyle and Landon didn't come. They didn't come for the yard sale, or they didn't come at all, because Kyle now has a girlfriend, and he was with her, like her Memorial Day thing. And I can respect that. I know what it's like to be 19, 20 years old and you got a girlfriend. You're going to spend all your time with them, right? That's just the way it is. So we've lost Kyle. I'm pretty much counting him out. But Landon, he had to work and he just stayed home for this. So I was kind of bummed that the nephews weren't there. But I also realized that kids grow up, they get lives. They're not always going to want to come and drive 4 hours to go to a yard sale and to go to camp. That's not where reality is. I do have some regrets because I feel like when those guys were real young, I didn't fully take advantage of our relationship because I wasn't really a kid guy back then. I was a big kid, but I didn't have a kid yet. And I didn't know what it was like to kind of like play that role of being a dad and like, with kids. Whereas when I got Clarkman, like that's completely changed and I've had so much fun with him. And I'm just like, oh man, I could have had so much fun with like a 9-year-old Kyle and Landon, at the time, but I didn't realize what I was missing out on. And I regret not spending more time with those guys because they were so much fun and the times we did have together were great. But now that they're gone, and maybe some parents are listening to this, that your kids are now in their 20s or 30s or maybe even older and they've flown the coop or whatever the case is, and you're an empty nester. We're putting all kinds of bird phrases in here. Maybe you think back on those times that you missed out on, or times that you did have and you wish you could get them again. And that's kind of where I'm at. So I use those guys as an example to myself of why I need to put as much of myself into Clarkman that I can and enjoy as much as we can together, because these times are fleeting, 9-year-olds turn to 19-year-olds very quickly, and then they go off and they do their thing, which is good. I mean, that is your goal as a parent ultimately, is to prepare them for life and to send them off to have a happy, productive life. But there's a part of you, I would assume, that always wants them to be like a part of your life. And I'm hoping that Clarkman, when he grows up, will have that kind of relationship. And I think that's going to be the case, unless something drastically changes in the teenage years, which it's been known to happen. I think it's going to be all good. I am going to miss the little dude, though, when he's got himself a girlfriend and he's out there like staying at her place. And I'm going to be like, what about us? all that time. No, I'm going to encourage him in any way that I can because that's my job, right? To be an encourager, and maybe even to you too. That's what I'm here for. I think that's my purpose in some ways, even though it may only come through as silly little home videos that I shoot of myself. But that was back to the weekend. That was a pretty solid weekend. Monday, we had a bit of a rain out here in Pennsylvania, so we just kind of chilled that day after going pretty hard the last like 3 days, particularly Roxy Bear. She had a whole time up at camp. She was in the creek. She was getting fed a lot of food. She had a big day at the yard sale on Friday where she was the greeter. Saturday, a little bit slower because I think her arthritis was starting to catch up to her. But she got in the water on Sunday and she got herself a stick. So that was awesome to see 13-year-old plus Roxy Bear out there on the chocolate lab grind. Was awesome to see. But dude, she's been wiped. We haven't got any walks or anything this week. She's just been like recovery mode. And I feel like to have those really awesome days, it's totally worth having to pay for them by having a few days where you're down and stuff. So everybody had a good time. There was some amazing food up at camp. Everybody brought stuff. So it was what I'd hoped for Memorial Day, except for the nephews being there. I already mentioned that. But also I took my boats up there, my RC boats, and I was thinking, oh man, we can get in the creek and have some fun. But the current was going insane. So we couldn't do that, but we did use that current to our advantage in floating down. Clark and I got in one of the rafts. Casey came down with us and we had a great time floating down. I made a whole video. Like it was supposed to be like a one take thing of us just going down. My SD card did fill up at one point because I've been filming this like the whole weekend and I didn't delete anything. So we lost a few seconds of it, but you got to see like the whole experience of floating down the creek. I thought my butt was going to be safe, not hitting any rocks because the water was pretty deep and it was flowing. There were a couple rocks that came out of nowhere though. And my left cheek, man, the next day I was pretty sure that thing was bruised. But I'm back to normal now. And we didn't have to get out at all. Usually if at camp, like the water gets low enough, you have to actually like walk it sometimes, but this was pretty cool. And Clark Man loved it. So that was like the highlight of my weekend, I think, outside of seeing Clark Man sell all of his wares and have like this experience of being that proud dad, us floating down together with an Uncle Casey kicker. Does it get any better? I don't think so. But it does get better in the terms of quality of life improvements, which is what I had the beginning of this week. As we got back into the work week, I got back into selling things on eBay, although that was just continuing all weekend. I had like 6 items to go out. But I did something for the very last time, and that was spend an exorbitant amount of time printing out a label, cutting it out with a pair of scissors, and then taping it using packing tape to a box. I finally pulled the trigger after literally timing myself a week or two ago, seeing how long it actually took me to do these packages and watching myself on video cutting these things out and taping them and just seeing how ridiculous that is. I finally pulled the trigger on a thermal label printer, something that my friend group on Discord has been telling me to do forever. Silly me though, being a mathlete, I was like, let me do the calculations on this and see if it makes sense. And from a financial standpoint, if you're just looking at the money and you already own a regular printer and you have ink in it, which is kind of expensive, but boy, does it print a lot of labels before you run out. And if you have paper, and paper's cheap as well, like by a per label basis, it really isn't that expensive to print out labels. In fact, when I looked at the cost of a label printer, I think I did the math. I mean, this was like late last year, but I was like something like I would need to print 1,500 labels for it to pay itself off, like equaling out. But I wasn't calculating a few things. One unimportant thing like tape. The tape is probably the most expensive part of it because you're rolling out some tape. And I was using like 3 strips for each label. And it also kind of looked kind of jank, but it served its purpose. But the most important thing, your time. And this is the thing that many people don't calculate in, just like me. Like when you're doing something and you're like, oh, I made $10 off of that sale. Well, how much time did you invest in it? What is your time worth? I kind of feel like, and this is going to sound so dumb, but my time's really not worth anything. I had someone comment like, well, Greg, your time's worth more because you're a YouTuber. And I'm like, my time really isn't. Like I'm self-unemployed. This is my hobby. I'm doing this for fun. Would it be nice saving some time? Yes. How much time would I save? Quite a bit. And that was the determining factor on why I bought a Nelco thermal label printer. Also, the fact that it wasn't super expensive. The Premier label printer on Amazon was like $200. It was a Rollo. This Nelco one was $90 with a $15 coupon. And it said about how great it was for printing things from your phone, like it was Bluetooth and all that. And I was like, that's exactly what I need, because I do everything very smoothly on my iPhone. I do my entire eBay thing from that. So if you're ever thinking about selling eBay, I know I always pitch you. I'm always trying to sell you on something here, whether it be creating a YouTube channel or becoming an eBay seller. All I can do is try to make you like me. No, that's not my intention. It's to, I guess I find things in my life that I really enjoy, and I want to share that, and then I want other people to have that enjoyment too. But I also try to realize, and I remember that not everyone wants to do this. Some of you are very happy being an accountant, and that you do that from 9 to 5 every day, and you're happy as a lark, and that's what you like to do. You like to come home and not have to worry about anything. That's, dude, respect. Me, I just love dabbling in everything and anything that I can get into, as you've probably seen in this podcast. And as my, the chapters change and the seasons turn, sometimes new things pop up. And in 2024, as you have also seen in this podcast or heard, it's available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, by the way. This has been my year of becoming a reseller. Ever since that fateful day that we walked in the bins on one random $2 day after a estate sale, I've been hooked, and I've been just having so much fun doing this. Have I mentioned that before? I should probably just create a podcast that's just about reselling, so you don't have to hear about it. But I've been having fun with it, and now I'm having even more fun because that Nelco printer, I got that thing dialed in. It took a little bit of setup. Like, actually setting it up is very easy. You literally plug it in, and you like put the paper in and put the lid down, and it's ready. Now, getting to print on eBay, it takes like 2 extra clicks, but regardless, it like instantly spits out a label. I peel the backing off, put that on a box, and it's ready to go. It came with 50 free labels, and then you can get, I think it was 500 labels for $20, but people have told me that you can get free labels through UPS and FedEx. So if I don't want to drop $20 for 500 labels, like 500 labels would probably last me maybe a year. I mean, hard to say, because there's days that I send out like 5, 6 items. There's days I send out 1, 3, 0 on some occasions. So like, say you average 2 a day, that would be dang near 700 items a year. So I mean, it could pay for me to get the free labels. I don't know if the USPS would have an issue with it saying UPS on it. I'm sure there's some type of watermark or something, because everyone could take advantage of this. But I think I might as well, because I'm eventually going to run out of labels, and I definitely want to have some ready for when that happens, because I don't want to go back to my old ways. It is saving me time, and time is valuable, right? Like you sit there and you do that process that I was doing with 5 labels. It totaled up to quite a bit of time, so I'm saving that. Financially, like I think this was a good investment. I mean, I guess the main reason I didn't want to invest in a label printer, I probably would have done it sooner, but I didn't foresee this in 2023 when I was selling off all of my unused items. Remember, we talked about, like, if something's not serving you anymore and it's not providing value to you, there's not much of a reason to hold on to it, and you should sell it if it has some value. That's where I was last year. And I was like, there will be a day where my eBay store is done, because eventually I'm going to run out of stuff to sell. All of my things that aren't serving me anymore, hopefully, are going to be gone. And I got to that point. Like, I really don't have any more personal possessions to sell. Everything that I'm selling is from the bins and from yard sales that I find, like, stuff that I want to flip. Like, all my stuff's gone. So ideally my store was going to end, but then I kind of got into it. But now I'm investing. Like, I've got boxes that I'm buying, because I'm like obviously out of Amazon boxes and things that we've gotten in the mail. We're not ordering nearly enough stuff to replenish. I got bubble wrap. I even got like that brown paper coming with like a cutter, so I can like break that up and fold it up and put it inside as like packing material. I've got that coming this weekend. I've got actual boxes for like individual items that I bought. Like, I have a ton of these fuel bottles, which we'll talk more about here shortly, about my bins day. And I got like the perfect boxes for those. So I've got those coming. And I just been like, turning my storage room of doom into like Greg's shipping center. It's like the UPS store basically. And it's been great. So I spent like $140 though this week just on like shipping stuff. But it's a part of the biz, right? You got to spend money to make money. And like, I need this stuff. So I look at it as just like an investment in my hobby. Just like if you were to go golfing and you buy some golf balls, right? Like, what are you going to do? You got to have the stuff. When people buy something, you can't just throw it in a box and hope it gets there. It's rattling around inside. Like, shipping and shipping quality is important, at least to me. Maybe some people don't care about that. But when I sell something to someone, I want them to open that box up and be like, good golly, this guy put some care into this. I might actually leave him feedback. Not many people do. I sold a lot more stuff than I had feedback for. I think it should be like this. Here's another hot take for you. This one's not so hot though. I think from a seller's perspective, once you sell something to someone, in fact, maybe both ways. If you sell something to someone and they receive it and there's no issues, as a seller, you should get automatic positive feedback. You made a sell, person's happy, assuming like that if they didn't raise a snake. Likewise, if you're a buyer and you pay for something, you should also get like a positive feedback, like or some type of thing that shows you purchased something. Because if that seller doesn't leave you feedback, it's like that transaction never took place. And when you're getting started out, like you want to build that reputation up, whether from both standpoints, you want people to be able to like trust you. That's the whole thing with feedback. And I think a massive amount of eBay transactions go unaccounted for in the world of feedback. So it'd be nice if there was some type of automated system where if both parties are happy and there was no drama, it shows that the item was delivered, just positive feedback, both of them. It doesn't even have to be positive. It can just be like a transaction occurred. I don't know. I wish eBay would do that. I also, and this, they would never do this, but I wish I could not sell to people with no feedback. But again, if they're doing a buy it now and they pay for it, that's fine. But I haven't had any issues with anyone, so that's good. I just wish the feedback system was kind of revamped in a way that actually credited everyone for their contributions to eBay and the platform itself. Speaking of reselling, since we talked about my label printer and how I plan to get used to that, eBay's actually been going really well. The labels are flowing. Bins has been doing really well. In fact, this week, I had a great bins week. I went on $4 day because it was Tuesday. Usually I go Monday, $5 day, and I go like $2 day. But being that Monday was Memorial Day, I wasn't even sure if they were open. And the family was home, so I waited until Tuesday because I had to run some errands anyway. And I found like 5 items there. I was like feeling pretty good about it. Everything was like $20 or more. And I came home right away and I listed it all. And like within the first hour or so, one of my items sold, and then like by the next day, I think like 3 or 4 of them sold. So I'm getting much better at sourcing things. I'm seeing things that I've bought before or stuff with value, confirming it, and I'm pricing it right. Every time I buy something and price it, it's always just under the cheapest one that's on eBay. I try to undercut whenever I can because I'd much rather take the reduced amount, especially when your input is so low, like at $4. Just buy something for it's $38, for example, that someone's going to buy. I can afford, if it's going for 38, I can afford to go 37, right? And that was going well. And that's kind of brought me to my next issue, my fuel bottle situation. Those things are selling, which is good because I have like 25 of them. I talked about this, I think, last week. Bins had like 30 more of them this week, and I had them all. And I was like, should I buy 30 more of these at $4 each? But then I started thinking like, dang, what if the other person that's selling these, like there's a guy on eBay that sold like 140 some of these, and I undercut him. He's at $29.99. I'm at $28.50, and I've been selling, and I'm assuming he hasn't. What happens when he realizes that? He's like, wait, I haven't sold any of those fuel bottles in a while. What's going on? And he's like, oh, I'm going to go $27.99. Then I'm going to like, whoa, I'm going to go $26.99. We're going to fight to the bottom potentially when he realizes this or when someone else does. And I don't want to be stuck with a ton of these. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to let those babies sit and I'll come back on like $1 a day. And if they're still here, I'll buy them. Spoiler alert. I went back today, $1 a day. They're gone. So there is some concern in my heart that somewhere near me, someone has 30 of those bottles, and I'm praying that they don't list them on eBay for cheaper than me, because we're going to have problems. We're all going to end up like the free market will free market, and we're going to destroy each other financially. Right now, I'm making, after fees and everything, I'm making about $13 every time I sell one of those bottles. That's after my acquisition cost, shipping, and all of that stuff, eBay fees, all of it. I make like $13. Now, if they bought that on like $2 a day or $3 a day, they might be okay making $10 or $12 and like undercutting me. So I might just be thankful that I'm at where I'm at, and just hopeful that that person is going and taking those to like a flea market or something, or traveling somewhere with those. Because if they hit eBay, I'm going to be hurting. And if that guy ever realizes that I'm undercutting him, we're going to get into a battle. So the eBay battle might occur here sometime, and I'll report back on how that goes as I start to hemorrhage profit from my fuel bottle sales. I think I have 16 big ones left, and the little ones aren't selling very well. I bought these 11 ounces that seemed like they were doing okay. I might want to lower the price on those to get those moving. I do that often. I go on eBay and I'm making sure my prices are good because, when I go on and undercut somebody, someone could go in and undercut me, or that person could do it. So you just always have to. It's like a battle. It really is. But it's good for consumers because we're all fighting to get the lowest cost, and you're going to get the best price. So these dirty resellers can't take advantage of you when there's tons of them. No scalpers exist when there's friendly competition like that, or not so friendly in some cases. Speaking of my day, going to the bins, the day of the label printer, I should say. If you would like to join Patreon, you could watch a 28-minute video of my entire day behind the scenes, going to bins. What else did I do that day? It was so long ago. It was like Tuesday. Okay, the video is really good. In fact, I have to sell it here. I got done editing the video. It was the same day the label printer video was done. So I was like, okay, that's my video for the channel, because that's a video. We talk about making videos that people could actually find you by. My core audience, they like anything from what I've discovered. I could put any kind of video out. People are like, okay, I'll watch it because, that's what we do here. Versus this video, which is all about thermal label printer. It's me setting it up for the first time, trying it out, and like experiencing it. It's not necessarily a product review. It's kind of an unboxing, setup, and a first attempt at it. And that's a video that people will find potentially if they're thinking about getting that label printer, which it's like the top one on Amazon. They might watch that video and they came there for the label printer, but they might stay because of the personality behind it. There's a lot of extra stuff in there, which could be like off-putting to somebody that's just looking for info. But I'm not just a guy that educates. I'm a guy that I'm here to build a relationship, but I need you to find the channel. So that was a video that went out there, but I still had my vlog in me that day. So I shot like my entire day from like start to finish. And I was like, hey, I'll just put this on Patreon because I'm trying to like give the people back there for doing a pledge each month. I'm trying to like give them something for that, right? And I was like, oh, dang, this video is so good and I want to share this with everybody, but I got that video out. Let's put this on Patreon. So you could watch that. You can also see the new game that I'm playing for PC, which is so good. So I'm going to entice you, especially if you're enjoying this podcast. I push this out there every week. You know how many people sign up for Patreon for this podcast? 0, none. If you're getting value from this podcast, if you're enjoying this being free to the world, at least for now, support the podcast on Patreon. That's all I'm asking. And you can get access to all kinds of other stuff. You got to have something that you can give people, right? Like you can say, hey, do this thing out of the kindness of your heart. Spoiler alert, you won't. You can do this thing where you're like, hey, here's something that you can get. Here's a reason, and here's a positive benefit and something that you'll get for what you're doing. And that's the reason. So for those reasons, I'm thinking a lot of my behind the scenes stuff, the day-to-day stuff, I think I'm going to start uploading over there because I want to build this up to something substantial, because I think this is going to be the future of my online enterprise, if you want to call it that. I think reselling will be a thing until I fall out of love with it, which could happen, but I always love sharing things, and I can't always trust the YouTube algorithm gods to provide. They have historically, since I've been doing this full time. But that could change as time goes by and as my content changes. And so I'm going to do everything I can to build that up. And there's going to be things that are over there. I know that's going to upset some people. I do feel bad. I see the messages from the kids are like, oh, I don't have money. I can't do this. But it's like, I still provide. I still put out more content than most. But some of this stuff, especially the day-to-day stuff, like the no zero style stuff, I think is going to go over to Patreon. And the regular videos are going to be like things where I'm actually doing something, or like we're traveling, or we're getting into something. Like, for example, like it needs to be a dedicated video to something. It can't just be like, hey, here's my day. I think that's a great thing for Patreon, the behind the scenes. This podcast, this is a great thing for Patreon. I'm trying to decide where this is going to go. Like I mentioned in previous episodes, if I were to make this, even if it was $1 a month, 95% of people would completely abandon this because it's not worth it. It may be worth, and this is so funny to me. I want to talk about like something I saw on Reddit. It's someone would spend 4 hours of their life every month listening to this, and it has great value to them in that regard. Like this is 4 hours of their life every single month. They listen to every episode religiously. If this cost anything at all, though, it wouldn't be worth it for them. Even if it was a penny, not worth it. And that's just so mind-boggling to me. Like I saw this post for a video game on Reddit. And this is kind of like the same scenario where people like their values. The game was $30, marked down from 60 or 70, whatever video games are these days. And this person was talking about how excited they were to play this, but their price point on it was $15, which I can respect. But when you think about it like this game, you're going to sit down and play. It was a substantial game. You're going to play this game for like 40 hours, right? 40 hours of your life. You're totally unwilling to spend $30 to get 40 hours of enjoyment, but you're willing to you're all in at $15. That extra $15, is that not worth 40 hours of your enjoyment? Like, it's just crazy to me. Like what other entertainment are you going to get for that cheap? And I guess, it was from a PlayStation deals subreddit. So everyone's looking for the greatest price. And I guess there are price points for people, but is $30 not worth 40 hours of entertainment? That's just crazy. Like, people go to the movies and spend $15, maybe more these days, on a movie ticket that's 2 hours, and you don't even get to keep that forever. I don't know. I just try to figure out how people value their time. It's the same thing that we talked about with YouTube Premium, where you would rather be absolutely punished on every single video you watch by having to skip ads and have this interruption and stuff, rather than pay whatever YouTube Premium costs. Even if you're the most hardcore YouTube user, I don't get it. I know, financially there are reasons. Like, some people are like, well, I'm strapped. That extra $15 for that video game, I really can't afford it. I can't afford YouTube Premium. Totally makes sense. But if you're able to, and you don't, just like with the label printer, I think this is the topic of this podcast. Do you value your time? Do you value your experience? Those things are very important, but we put so little of a priority on it. Just like me. I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about me. The label printer is a perfect example. I was unwilling to spend $75 over a year ago to save 3 to 5 minutes every single time I print a label, which I've been doing tons of, just because I was being cheap and I was trying to get away with what I had. Little did I know that I could have saved all of this time. I have regrets. I wish I could have got it then. I wish I could have told myself, just get it. Just spend the money. It's not like I couldn't afford to do it. I should have just done it, and I would have been so much happier, because now I'm just so thankful every time one of those labels prints, and I kick myself for not doing it before. Was this thing worth $75 from a financial standpoint when I have a printer with ink and paper and tape? No. But was it worth it from a quality of life standpoint and a time saving standpoint? The thing that we don't value, are the time we have on this earth, the most important thing in some cases. It was worth it. It was definitely worth it. And I feel dumb for not doing it. So there's my tirade. I don't know where that started or where it was going, but I feel good about it. I don't feel like it was quite a rant. It was just something I'm feeling passionate about, and something that I think about quite often, particularly when it comes to how we value things. Your money or your life, as it's known. So anyways, let's move on to the other highlight of this week. One of the coolest things that happens this time of year, and that is my annual solo amusement park run. Last year, I did a solo run to Cedar Point. It was a crazy day. I got up at 6 o'clock in the morning, and I drove for 5 hours to Sandusky, Ohio, from the middle of Pennsylvania, to ride roller coasters all day. And then when I was done there, I rode everything I wanted to ride, some of them more than once. When I was done there, I was like, well, I'll just start driving, and when I get tired, I'll get a hotel or something. We'll stay overnight. I drove all the way home. So I got home at 11 o'clock at night. So it was a very long day, but it was awesome. And it was this great adventure. I decided to do that again this year, but I decided instead of doing Cedar Point, I would do Hershey Park, a place that Clark and I had gone last year and had a really great time. It's the place reminds me of Knoebels, but with a ton of money invested into it. And the money definitely comes in there. For example, I was talking to a guy there, and I think he said that day, if you were to pay to park, $35. Did I pay that? No. I got the best park you can get because I bought a season pass. Season pass enables you to go anytime in the summer, and you get an hour early. I got the king size pass, I should say, which was $290. Might seem like a lot, But when you start Hershey parking, you'll realize that that money goes very quickly. It enables you to come in anytime, any day you want, an hour early. You get priority parking. So you're basically parking right by the entrance, which is pretty cool. Because last time Clark and I walked a long ways. And I should say, last time Clark and I went, between our 2 tickets and parking, excluding food or drinks or anything, it's like $160. So I did the math on this, as some people do. No time valued here at all. If I go 2 times and Cody and Clark go once, this thing pays for itself. But not only do you get the things that I've mentioned, but you also get the drink plan, which is free. So you can fill up with soda anywhere in the park for free. And every 10 minutes you can do that. So you could drink them out of house and home there with fountain sodas that cost like a penny every time you fill up. But you get free drinks. You get a discount on food. I think there was a meal plan version, but I wasn't concerned about that. And I think that's it. And now the guys are here doing my grass, so it might get a little noisy in here temporarily, but we're already deep into this, so we got to keep going. So I ended up going on Thursday, used my season pass, which was great. I got there right when they opened, just about, and I rode all of the crazy, scary coasters that Clark man didn't want to ride last year when we were there. Like, we did all the easy stuff and like some of the wooden coasters, but I did all of the crazy flips and all the stuff you can do. The one that I was really looking forward to is called Wildcats Revenge, which was amazing. I first rode Fahrenheit, and that has this start out where you go straight up, like you're on your back and you go straight up like the Impulse at Knoebels, and it sends you through all this stuff. I was sitting beside this younger girl that was riding with her 2 friends, so it was like them 3 and then me, which was weird, and she was just like screaming, "Oh my god," the entire time, the entire ride. Speaking of younger kids, that was pretty much the entire population of Hershey Park on Thursday, and I knew that going into it. It was all like class field trips. You'd see a group of kids with like, all of them have like orange shirts on, all of them have blue shirts on, red shirts. It was just classes, like insanity. I would say if you took out all of the 14 to 16 year olds, there'd probably be like 30 people left in the park, me being one of them. I've never felt so old in my life, but there were other older people there too. And I made some friends in the lines because you're there for a while. And I got to talking to some different people, and it was great, including this one guy. And his 2 kids were there. The wife doesn't like roller coasters. So I was talking to him, and he lives out near Pittsburgh, and they go to Cedar Point. They've been to Knoebels. They're at Hershey. So it was like, dude, me and you could be BFFs. They're hitting like all these amusement parks. So I rode with his family on that, and that was a lot of fun. And it's just interesting to see like the people that you end up like befriending when you're in lines. That being said, this one ride I was in, it was like, I wish I could not do it. In front of me, it was these really just obnoxious, probably like 12-year-olds, just being absolutely ridiculous. And this happened to be the longest line of the day for Great Bear. Behind me were these 2, and I don't want to insult anyone from New Jersey, but I could tell they were from New Jersey or New York, like yelling people, like just talking to each other, but like hurting my ears just in them talking to each other and just being obnoxious. So they're behind me, and I'm just being chill. Like, you can't even tell I'm there. And then these kids in front of me being obnoxious. I was just like, could this line move any faster? But by the time I got on, it was like all forgotten. And then I rode this Great Bear ride, which it was kind of remind me of a cedar ride where your legs are kind of dangling free, and I like those ones. But this one messed me up, dude. Like, by the time I got off of it, I was like, I think I'm going to throw up. Luckily, I didn't. I think it was just, I don't know if I was hungry or thirsty or what. Like, we were just out there for a bit, and I was standing in the sun for a little bit of that. So that was brutal. But I had such a great experience, particularly when I did the Jolly Rancher remix was really fun, because when I got off of that, one of the rides that I wanted to ride was down the entire day. What was that one called? Let me look it up on my thing here. That was Storm Runner, was down the entire day. I got off Jolly Rancher remix and I took a wrong turn, which took me down to right where the entrance was, and they were opening it up at that very moment. So I just walked right on, and that's usually one of the rides that they tell you when you get there you should run to. That and Fahrenheit end up like packing very quickly. So I got to walk right onto that, and that was great. I did every coaster I wanted to do with the exception of Super Duper Looper. That's one that I think Clark Man could do. So I rode all the other ones. I was there from about 11 until about 6, and then I drove home, and I was home by 8 o'clock, which was so much better than the Cedar Point day. So I saved like, I don't know what, like 6 hours of my day. I left at 8 instead of like 6. And then I got home at 8 instead of like 11. The math in there works somehow. Maybe I left at 5 that day. Maybe I did. But yeah, it was a good time. And I just, a part of me, it's like, I love the solo adventure. I love like doing exactly what I want to do and going on this thing by myself. But then there's a part of me that's like, I really want to share this with Clark Man or Mrs. Brickitect or Cody as she's known in some circles. I actually reached out to Landonian, my nephew, to see if like I was going to do a Cedar run. If he wanted to go, I was going to go out to Pittsburgh, pick him up, maybe stay the night, and then we would go to Cedar. But he had finals that day, and then Kyle's like, he's doing his thing. So I was like, all right, Hershey Park solo run it is. And I shot a video. I obviously couldn't film on the coasters, but I like kind of shot shots of all of the coasters in action, talked about them, gave my like quick review when I was done. So you get the whole experience pretty much from being there. And it was a fun time. I'm very excited to go through the footage and see what that turns into. It was like the day was just perfect. It was 70 degrees with a nice breeze, sunny. You couldn't have asked for better conditions. The only thing I could have asked for is like fewer 14-year-olds, but they have every right to be there just like I do. I knew it was going to be bad just rolling in. I saw like 6 of those, like not buses, but like coaches leaving. And I'm like, oh God, it's going to be crazy here. So it was actually a busy day. I didn't have to do the fast pass. I was wishing that I did though, in some cases where you're standing in line, like in Great Bear with those people and you see somebody just walk past you and get on. But it turns out the fast pass for that day was $110. And I'm like, dude, I spent $290 on the season pass. I'm not going to spend $110 to fast pass it. And I was just thinking, like, there was a dude that walked on. He had like 3 daughters. I'm like, there was $440 right there. I guess if you have the money and if you value your time, isn't that what we were just talking about? I value my time, but I don't value it at $110 for a day of riding roller coasters. If I had done that though, I probably would have been out of there by like 2:00 in the afternoon, because it only enables you to ride once per day. It's not like you can just keep getting on over and over again. So yeah, I probably would have been out of there way sooner. So it really didn't make a difference. I was okay waiting. It was not a big deal. And the lines were never too long, except for that one felt like it was forever. The other ones were pretty quick. And I was very happy with my trip. We're going to be going back. I'm going to take Clark Man. Some of those rides, like I was trying to figure out, okay, which ones can he ride? Because this was my first time riding these coasters too. And they're crazy. If you want to watch some cool videos and you want the YouTube algorithm gods to punish you, look up like Hershey Park roller coaster POV or roller coaster POV shots, and you get to see what it's like to ride on these. It was crazy. And most of them though, I was like, dude, there's no way that Clark can get on. But then I see these other little kids, but then I'm like, dang, it's Clark. Is he going to survive this? I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to put on Super Duper Looper, which is a pretty mellow ride. It just has one loop. So once he goes inverted, I'll be like, okay, so that's not bad, right? Let's go ride Wildcats Revenge, which is a wooden coaster with a metal track and 4 complete like barrel roll inversions. I think he can do that one. We'll work our way up. Sky Rush though was insane. Like that Sky Rush was the one that a lot of people say is the number 1 ride there, and one that I kind of like, and this is what I was talking to the guy on. That's the one I rode with him. He said like he kind of grays out is what he called it on one of the turns. And I had that experience. I was like, dang, that was crazy. But yeah, it was all good. Had a great day. It was perfection for the most part. And I got to do my once a year solo run to amusement park, something I look forward to each year. Friday though, that takes us, we're like caught up. We're now up to today, this morning. And I went yard sailing today. Yemi and Pap stayed home. They're like, Clark Man's coming over there tonight, because tonight we're going to this get together with teachers. So wish me luck. I'm going to try to do my best to be social and to try to like integrate with all these teachers somehow. They're a whole different species, guys. She was staying home, getting the house cleaned up, prep for Clark. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go out searching, hunting. Didn't find any Lego today, but I did get a crazy Thomas and Friends score. This one house I went to, it was like pretty much like Clark's bedroom. They were selling everything: monster trucks, Hot Wheels, Thomas stuff, wooden. They had Trackmaster, and they had these bins, and it said $1 each for the Thomas stuff. And I saw these 2 bins, and I was looking in there. I'm like, man, there's a lot of stuff in here. And I said, what would you want for both bins, just like all together, if you want to sell them all? And the guy said $50. So I took that and I was like, all right, let's go. And I brought it home. I laid them all out and I counted up like 110 wooden Thomas trains and miscellaneous stuff like that. So that was pretty cool. I'm going to let Clark Man go through and figure out what he wants out of there. And then I'm going to probably sell the rest on eBay. So I'll be the official Thomas wooden dealer on eBizzle. And I think I'm going to do pretty good on that. Like when you can get a Thomas train for half the price of a Hot Wheels at Walmart or less, that's pretty dang good. So that was a great time. Tomorrow we're going to go out to more yard sales. If you hear the mower in the background, maybe you won't hear it. Maybe it's just me. Let's see. Yeah, you might not hear it. Maybe you do. Yummy and Pap are coming out tomorrow morning. We're going to hit the community yard sales again. I think there's going to be a lot more. I saw some signs that said like yard sales Saturday, Sunday. So I think we're going to be like in the money tomorrow. But today I got those. I got the Risk board game. I thought that might be fun to try to play with Clark. I know it's kind of complicated. In fact, the people I bought it from said they bought the game, opened it up, looked at the rules, and put it away. They never played it. So that was my other score of the day. And I got a couple other little small things. There's a video on this. This will be available to everyone since it's a dedicated video, right? Like it's not just me being like, hey, I'm getting up and making some scrambled eggs. Then I'm going to go feed the chickens. It's going to be like, this is me yard sailing. That's a thing. It has a category, right? If it has a category, it's not a behind the scenes or extra thing. So I think that pretty much gets us all caught up on everything. That was my week, a pretty substantial one. In the world of Lego, I haven't had any time to get anything done there. In fact, I wanted to film 2 videos today of things that I wanted to share. I'm like out of time. Mrs. Brickatech's going to be home very soon, and then Clark will be as well. And then we're back to school. This coming week, though, last few days of school, I think Monday, Tuesday, full days, Wednesday, half day, done. We're out. So summer vacation is about to start, and things are going to change here a little bit. I'm still going to be making the podcast, but there's going to be some traveling and such that happens too. So there might be some weeks where there isn't one necessarily, but you'll hear all about our adventures when we come back. But we'll worry about that when the time comes, which is rapidly approaching. Let's instead get into listener feedback. And I thought it'd be fun to do this listener feedback as a face-off, starting out between the two most, I want to say, notorious commenters on all of my channels, and that is between Ray Witten and Rob, the Canadian Geek. These guys are comment extraordinaires. I don't know if notorious is the right word. They just really go all in and they cover everything. So let's do a comparison here between Rob and Ray, and we'll see who really just like takes home the crown for commenter of the week. Maybe of the year, actually. Not to say you other comments aren't good. These ones are just like crazy. And oftentimes I feel bad because like these are so long. Sometimes I'm just like, well, I'll just reply to that one on my own time. But these guys, they deserve it. So let's hit Ray up first with his commentary on last week's episode. He says, good Sunday morning, Greg. He's already in, like he's right on it. When it airs, he's on. He says, the Chia Pet was a great score and the videos were great. The Walkman was an unbelievable find. I can't believe you got it that cheap. I love DB's take on the $1 seed money. That was me finding the dollar on the ground and then turning it into all these amazing things. He says, the printer investment is a precursor to the eBay business really taking off. A lot of times by taking a simpler leap of faith, it is rewarded in the next level of advancement. I like that. He says, chicken fence repair was a great vlog and so impressive. It's not easy work, and it's great you can be self-sufficient. This will go a long way towards learning for the future and your Greg's Animal Farm. The chicken wrangling was hilarious. I brought the memory of the scene in Rocky, which is funny because Chris posted that to our Discord. I've seen Rocky 1. But I don't remember any chicken scene. I don't even know if it was from that particular Rocky. But when I saw it, I was like, yep, that's my life. He says, the box of fast food toys is a great buy. As you know, nostalgia sells and people tend to splurge on things that tug at their heart. Happy Meal toys can tie great memories for both parents and children. We have a collection of Simpsons Halloween toys from BK. Every year, we get them out for Halloween. Great memories of my son at about Clark's age. Yeah, I think they're a good investment. They're things that's the reason I bought those, is because I saw something in there. I was like, that reminds me of my childhood. So there's some crazy stuff in there. And again, if you like the whole behind the scenes thing, I have an entire video on Patreon of me going through all these Happy Meal toys that I got as a part of the behind the scenes yard sale spectacular. He says, it's great that you keep adding different interests to the podcast in your life. Life is about growing and experiencing new opportunities. Several of us are here because we tried something different. Your channel has been a wonderful addition to a lot of our lives. Thank you, Ray. He says, you're so right that modern conveniences have damaged the social skills of all age groups. I think it's important to force yourself to do some of the mundane, like grocery shopping, to maintain some of your sanity. Lack of human interaction is a driver of depression and laziness. We need certain tasks in our lives to maintain organization and a need to shower. That's a funny spin at the end. Yeah, if you're just going to DoorDash and have all your stuff delivered, you don't have to be presentable at all. You can look like this. It could be that bad. He says, there were fantastic comments this week. This community is so well-versed and thoughtful. What a great listener feedback. And then he says, thank you for another hour well spent. Hope it was worth it. I hope that you enjoy your Sunday with Cody and Clark. Have a great Memorial Day. check that off the list. Enjoy celebrating the great men and women that have sacrificed it all so we can live in the greatest country during the greatest era of mankind. That's a bold claim, but one that I agree with. We talked to Cody about this one time. I was like, can you imagine what it'd be like to live in a time where you could get raided, like your village gets raided and like your house gets burned down and people kidnap you and kill you and steal your food, and like, can you imagine what that's like? We have so many things that like protect us from that. Like you can walk out of your house and feel safe. And it's like kind of crazy that like for 99% of like our history, it wasn't the case. Right. So yeah. And the fact that we have had the proper thought on Memorial Day, not just floating down the creek and having some nice picnic food. It's remembering the people that fought for us to enable us to have those experiences. Well said, Ray. Well said. But Rob also comes through. Ray can't be the only crazy commenter around here. We got Rob, the Canadian Geek. He says the Walkman is an awesome find. I love these guys too because they break their comments up on individual things that I discussed. So they're like checking it off, and it's cool. He said it's always good to share what you love. I always trying to recommend starting YouTube. Just shows how much you love it. If everybody would have started YouTube or done YouTube when I told them to, I can't tell you how many people will be successful at it. I have like so many of my friends, my nephews. I'm like, come on, guys, just like do gaming videos or whatever it is you want to do. And like they already have subscribers because of my channels and stuff. It's like, oh, why didn't you do it? I tried to convince them. I think it goes without saying that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. That's how I feel about a lot of the stuff that I try to convince people of. But it's not for everybody. You know, you can't make people want to do something. He says people do like to live by ignorance is bliss. Unfortunately, I try to stay aware of things, but I get it depressing fast. Just try to live my life well and leave the best positive mark every day. I like that too. He says, social stuff has been put on the back burner. My social skill took a hit during the COVID years. Now I love to talk to people, but not everyone is as friendly in today's age. The community feel of small towns is also seemingly slipping away. Hopefully we can find these values again soon for our and future generations' sake. I have a lot of faith in the next generation coming up. I'm hoping that they can pull through. Everyone's relying on them. I think it should be my generation, though. I hate to be like, oh, hope they do it. It should be like my generation's of age now. Like we're old enough to be president. I mean, we're like 80 years younger than the people that are running for president, but we have the capability to do that and to make some changes. So maybe we can do that for our kids. Hope so. Anyways, he says the community feel, we got that part. He says, I'm a fellow early bird, usually up at 4 every morning. Love to hear the birds chirp, read a nice book, and listen to some nice classical music. Great start of the day. I love that. Should I start that? I listen to a guy's podcast. He gets up at 4 o'clock, but then he takes like a 2-hour nap, like in the middle of the day, and he goes to bed at 8 o'clock. I don't think that you should necessarily try for something when it comes to getting up or going to bed. I think you should try to do what feels natural to you. Some people are just great at night. Like you do your best work at 1 a.m. That's fantastic. I'm like a 5 to 6 a.m. type dude. I don't want to be up at 4 and I don't want to go to bed at like 7 o'clock at night because I need a solid 8 hours or so. But like when I go to bed at we go to bed like 9 or 10 o'clock weeknights because Cody and Clark both have to get up early. I crash as soon as I go to sleep. That's silly. I crash as soon as I go to bed and like I wake up the next morning feeling great, and it's between like 5 and 6, and that's just like perfect for me, and I love it. I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't want to get up later because like you start creeping into that daytime, just like Clarkman realizes. You start to lose some of that time that you have, which is I feel like my best time is in the morning. That's when I do all my best stuff. Plus yard sales. It's good to be out of the house 7, 8 o'clock, and that doesn't happen when you sleep in until noon, baby. Thanks, Rob, for the comments. You guys can decide who won the comment battle between Rob and Ray. Both are wise men who I'm very thankful to have as a part of this community, and they both bring a lot to the comment scene, not just in the content of their comments, but in the reflecting on pretty much everything that we discussed in the last episode. Good peeps. Not to be outdone, though, DB Brick has a nice comment here, too. He says, I'm surprised when you're surprised that we, the viewers, like the boring day-to-day routine videos. Do you? He says, it is what you've always done and always excelled at. It's always refreshing to see that YouTubers' life isn't just holidays and material items. That's kind of what I was like thinking that maybe my channel would be. Not material items, but like dedicated videos. Something that like has a purpose outside of me being like, I'm going to the bins for the 15th time this week. Look at me go in here and buy some stuff. I don't know. I'm like really split on this. I do think that it can be encouraging to people to see that there is normalcy out there. He says, YouTubers' life isn't holidays, material items. There are days when the kids come home from school sick, when the chicken coop fence needs replacing, when packages need taken to the post office. Just real life stuff that we can all relate to so much more than those who show the highlights reel. That is a good point, DB. I'm gonna throw this out to you guys. What are your thoughts on what's being spit here? He's literally. He says, although having said that, it's not just about material items. I'm super happy you joined the dark side of being a label printer owner. I joined the club later than I should have. Yeah. When you just list the benefits, it doesn't seem like that much, but there's just something about it that makes the final bit of packing order so much quicker and easier. By far, the biggest bonus for me is having to buy considerably less black ink. I'm pretty sure I recoup the cost of the printer itself within a couple of months just having to buy less ink. It's little things in life. Yeah, for me, it's the time, I think. I mean, the ink is kind of expensive, but I feel like it lasts forever. I don't know. It'd be so hard to actually calculate. Like, I'd have to figure out how much tape am I using and like what the cost of a roll of tape is, how much paper, obviously one sheet, but then like what's the cost of that and the cost of ink. I still think it's hard to justify the $75 for the label printer, but long term, being that you don't have to buy ink anymore and you're just buying these labels, we're getting labels for free. Once you overcome the cost of the label printer, or if you're just starting out, like if you're starting out with shipping and you're like, should I buy a regular printer or a label printer? I always get the label printer because for me, I was like, a regular printer is great because then you can print stuff. I can't tell you the last time I actually printed something. I don't think that's a thing anymore. So just get a label printer right off the bat. You don't even have to worry about the cost. You're just going to just start saving money instantly. But if you have a printer, I would say unless you're selling multiple things every single day, it probably, even with all the hype that I have on like the time savings, it probably makes sense just to print that label out from the printer you already own with ink you already own and just put it on the box, to be honest. But it'll get to be a point that you're just like, okay, I'm done. I'm done with this. And that's where I was. But yeah, I like your thoughts on sharing the normal stuff. And that's historically what I've done. I just need to find a balance there because I feel like I'm doing a little bit too much of the normal stuff in my opinion. And I feel like moving that like to an extras thing where people want that just makes a lot of sense versus like most people, like if you come across my channel, that's probably not how you found me and probably not. So we'll see. I'm going to ponder. I love to ponder and I love to figure things out because there's no rule book or guidebook on this, just like with parenting, with most things in life. Outside of school, you just kind of have to figure things out in your own, experiment, see what works, see what doesn't work. And that's what I've done historically. And things have moved, things have changed. Even this podcast was Missing Pieces originally, always was. Before that was Good Morning World on Greg's World, and I was on Brickatech channel. And then I changed it to the Greg's World podcast, had it uploading to Greg's World. And then I'm like, let's put it on Brickatech Live and make it Missing Pieces. It's just like, I think it's good to try things, move things, rework things, but always try to be moving forward. And that's, I think, the best thing you can do. But even better than that, the best thing you can do is to show up and be consistent, which goes without saying, right? Without saying. Next one comes from Clay Turtle. He says, it takes money to make money. It's just luck for you that it only costs $1. He was talking about the Walkman. Love seeing the fun you have making sales on eBay. I always peek to your store and see if there's anything I like. We'll finally get to see my daughter and give her the Scooby Cup this coming weekend. He bought the Scooby Cup for me that I got in a estate sale, which is pretty cool. He said, you should keep the Chia Pet and do a daily update on it growing. Glad us viewers can make you happy by our comments. Like your video brings us happiness as well. I have a camera in my yard and last week caught a big bear. Oh, don't say big bear. That was the ride that almost made me sick. Trying to get my bird feeder. I've been at my job for 5 years and hate it, but it's hard to leave because I get paid very well. My mental health has waned for sure. I keep saying I'll move on, but haven't yet. The goal is to leave by the end of the year. Thanks for a Tuesday morning listen this week. Well, I'm glad that you got the big bear on camera, and I appreciate the encouragement, and I hope that your daughter loves the Scooby Cup. As for your job, if you hate it, it might be a good idea to set a goal for putting out some applications in places or apply places to see what's out there. See, you never know. There might be another company. I don't know what your line of work is or what your skills are. There could be another company that's willing to pay you more for what you do, and maybe you'll like the atmosphere there better. I don't know if your situation is one where you don't like the work you do or if you don't like the place that you work at or the people you work with, but there are other things out there. And if you have a job and someone's actively paying you for something, that means you're employable. And that means someone else would want to pay you for that thing too. It could cause a disruption in your life, and it definitely is scary to take any kind of leap whatsoever. I've taken leaps, and it's like to not have that safety net anymore can be kind of scary or terrifying. But you only get one chance at this life. As we say, there no 0 days. Like nothing's guaranteed tomorrow. So try to do it, man. Make your life happy. See what you can turn it into. I think you got it. I think you can do it. But you'll have to report back. Let me know when you land the new job and your mental health is back on the rise again. Hopefully, I wish you the best. Next one comes from G Family. Easy for me to say though. Like I haven't been in the workforce since 2017. I don't know what it'd be like these days. I don't know what competition's like. Maybe it's really hard to get a job. Maybe it is best to stay there. I don't know. My advice isn't good. I can only give you advice on things that I've messed up, and I find that leaving a job that I wasn't happy with to follow my passion was the best decision I've ever made. But maybe it's only because it worked out. It could have been the worst thing that I've ever done. And I don't think it's responsible for me to tell everyone to do that because, geez, what if I ruin your life? And I don't want to do that. So you just do what you think's best, please. Next one comes from G Family. It says, I love the cha-ching eBay sound as well. Yippee. However, I get so annoyed when sometimes it's an experienced eBayer that gives you an offer where he's clearly trying to flip your flip. Giant thumbs down with the insulting offers. Agreed. I had that happen to me once where I think I underpriced. It was like a camera or camera lens, and someone snatched it up instantly. And I'm like, ah. And then I had a guy in my worst eBay story. I had a guy that bought this projector that I put up for sale, and it sold like right away. And I was like, cool. And then he messaged me and he's like, hey, this thing has all these problems. And I'm like, it didn't when I sold it to you, but okay, I can give you a partial refund. And I was like, how much is fair? And we agreed on a number. I can't remember what it was. And I gave him the refund. And then I looked at his account and I noticed that all he does is sell projectors. And when you know it, the next day, my projector was on there for substantially more than I sold it to him for, with no issues, surprisingly. So he was just a swindler is what he was. It's one thing being a flipper that's trying to get a deal. It's another thing being an absolute swindler and a jerk, which is what that guy was. And I would love to put him on blast, but I don't remember his name and I've moved on. I'm not bitter, even though it seems that way. G Family also asks, how are you enjoying the DJI? I love mine. Crisp. Got it after I seen your video. The DJI Pocket 3, great camera if you're getting started on YouTube. It has a little bit of everything. It's good for vlogging. It has great stability. You can take it walking with you, take it on hikes. It's good in low light. I like the camera. The only thing is it kind of falls in between the two things that I do. So it's kind of like the middle child a little bit. Like I film with my phone 90% of the time, or actually all the time when I'm out in the wild. If I'm not filming with a GoPro or the DJI Action 4, that's only when I'm getting wet in the water I film with those. But I film my phone because I just pull my phone out. When I go to yard sales, I have my phone in my hand. It doesn't look suspicious like if I were to have an actual camera. And then when I'm home, I film with like a dedicated camera in a lot of cases because I'm making Lego videos or whatever. But oftentimes even home, I'll film with my iPhone. It's just so convenient having it, and the quality's good, the audio's good. It's hard to beat the phone that's in your pocket to make videos with because most people aren't really concerned with like cinematic quality. As long as they can hear you and see what you're doing, the phone's or the image isn't super shaky, most people are happy with it. And if you have a phone that's like 5 years old or maybe even older at this point, that is more than sufficient to make YouTube videos. But the Pocket 3 is a cool camera, and I love the mic that goes with it. And it's like if you were just getting started out and you didn't want to use your phone for filming, that's a great place to start because it's affordable somewhat and it has everything you need. It's probably the best value in cameras these days. That being said, I have a camera or a lens coming today. In fact, did I get a message here? Motion on my driveway. Mrs. Brickitect is home, I think. Maybe I should message her real quick and let her know that I'm podcasting. I think she just got home. Podcasting, just so she knows and she doesn't bust in here, ruining the rest of listener feedback. How dare you? Next one comes from Taisha. It says, my kids and I had a Thomas. Oh, he also, G Family says, okay, we got that covered. Make sure I didn't miss anything, okay? Next one's from Taisha. It says, my kids and I had Thomas themed channel that finally got monetized, but we sort of lost interest in it. I want to get back into it. I'm just not sure of my theme. We just bought an old character home, so it may vlog that. Any tips? Much love to you. My favorite podcaster / YouTuber. Keep it real, and that's truly refreshing. Well, thank you. I think for your channel, it's best to do whatever you think is interesting. I think like if you had a Thomas channel and that kind of did well and now your kids aren't really into it and you're not, I think it'd be silly to like move on with that, even though that's what people found you by. That being said, if you start vlogging like the house that you're buying and like maybe remodeling and fixing up, none of those people are going to watch the video, but you may attract an audience that it's into that. And that's what I've found in my years on YouTube. Like over the last 12 years, my life has changed substantially since I started making YouTube videos. Are we at, yeah, we're at 12 years now. 2011 to, no, we're at 13 years here in June. 13 years of doing this. Holy smokes. I just have always shared what I've been up to and into, right? It's worked for this podcast and it's worked for my channel. That being said, people have found us through various things that I no longer do, and they may be disappointed. Like you found us through Thomas stuff, for example. I don't really do Thomas stuff anymore. Although today my yard sale score was some Thomas stuff. I just, a lot of my stuff has kind of followed, since having Clark, it's followed his hobbies and interests. Like we got into RCs, which I'm still into. We do Lego stuff, but like I add new things in. Like I just downloaded the All Trails app this week. It was half off. So I'd like to do some hiking videos. We go traveling now, which we weren't doing historically. Although in the summer times we've gone places. I love amusement parks, roller coasters. I like to do some camping videos. Clark and I kind of got into fishing a little bit last year with Pap, and I like to do more of that. So there's so much stuff that I do, and that makes it very hard for an audience to follow you, because they might have found you through the RC video that you did that really blew up, and they're like, oh, wow, these guys are great RC people. Wait, why are they fishing? I don't care about fishing. So I think the most important tip that I can give you, and this is some advice I feel like I can actually give because it's what's helped me, is that just be yourself, be authentic, and do what you love to do. And the audience will find you. And if they are subscribing to you for you or your family, as opposed to, I just want to see the Thomas trains, that is a game changer, right? That means you can transcend things. You might even be able to make a podcast talking about your week each week. And maybe somebody will listen to that because they're not invested in the newest review that you have of a Lego set or being on the cutting edge of technology or whatever it is. It's just, you are who you are. And if you enjoy having chickens outside as much as you enjoy playing with monster trucks, or if you love roller coasters and eating pizza, all of those things, they just all go into a big package that is your life and what you're up to and what you're into. And that's exactly what this podcast is. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. We cracked the 1 hour mark, which is pretty cool to see. There were a couple other comments too as well. I'll try to go in and heart those and stuff. A couple little one-liners like, people what they're listening to or watching while they do this, and that they like the podcast. And I appreciate that so much. I really want to hit those big comments this week, because a lot of times I'm like, oh, I'll just reply to that one because it's, I'm trying to cover as many as I can. But I do think listener feedback is a great part of this show. I get to hear from you guys, and you get to hear your thoughts and what you're up to, and your reflections on my reflections. It's reflection inception is what it is. But yeah, this week all about, I guess, the lesson, if we're going to narrow it down, it's all about how you value things. How do you value your time, your experiences? What do you value? And you just have to find what those things are, and then I say run towards them, whatever it may be. So that's my my encouragement for you as I send you out on my final podcast episode of May 2024. You listen to this in June. Hope June's going well. I hope it does for me too. I'll be reporting all about it in next week's episode. So on that, I hope you guys, or you, since it's just me and you here, hope you have a glorious week. And as always, I'll find you in the next Missing Pieces.